Hey loves, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a little fashion rewind, because before the front row invites, the street style paparazzi, and the TikTok runway edits, Fashion Week had an entire evolution. A journey. And honestly, it's way more iconic than most people know. We're taking it back to where it really started, all the way back to couture salons in Paris, wartime NYC innovations, and the moment when fashion became a full-on global event. So, if you've ever wondered how Fashion Week became the powerhouse that it is today, this video's for you. Let's get into the real history behind Fashion Week. But what even is Fashion Week? So let's start off with the basics for all the newcomers. Fashion Week is when designers debut their new collections for the upcoming season. It's giving red carpet meets shopping spree, where everyone's dressed to impress and make headlines. Shows are totally always ahead of the season. Spring and summer collections show in fall, and vice versa, so the industry can plan campaigns, content, and red carpet looks. But Fashion Week didn't just appear overnight, it was built, city by city, designer by designer. Now let's get into how Paris became the blueprint. All right, let's get into the roots of it all, because of course the origin story has to start in Paris. I mean, it's the fashion capital of the world. Picture this. It's the mid-1800s. Corsets are corseting, bustles are bustling, and fashion is strictly reserved for the ultra-elite. Enter the game changer, Charles Frederick Worth. Yes, a man with 3 first names who basically said, "I'm not just a tailor, I'm an artist." And honestly, he was right. Because Worth didn't just make clothes, he built a vision. And that vision hit. He was the first to treat fashion like fine art. Every gown told a story, every silhouette had purpose, and he knew his work deserved a proper showcase. So instead of waiting for clients to bring him ideas, he flipped the script. Here's what I've designed now. Pick what speaks to you. And just like that, the game changed. He introduced seasonal collections, presented them on live models inside his Paris salon, and turned fittings into full-on experiences. Not a runway show as we know it today, but more of an intimate performance. Models gliding through ornate salons, soft music in the background, silks and satins catching the light, and high society women whispering, "I'll take that one." The best part? It was invite only, ultra curated, dripping in exclusivity. Oh honey, you had to be known. And this? This became the blueprint for every high fashion presentation that followed. Worth was a fashion pioneer, the first to present fashion as an event. No sketches, no guesswork, just fully realized looks, styled and worn with intention. So why did Worth gain so much attention? Because he made the designer the star. Before him, dressmakers were anonymous. After him, people bought a Worth gown with his label sewn into the garment. Hello, designer branding. Soon he was dressing royalty. Empress Eugenie of France, Queen Victoria, and basically every wealthy woman who wanted to be seen in Paris. His influence went global. Fashion stopped being just about function. It became about fantasy, prestige, and power. Fast forward to the early 1900s, and more Parisian designers started hosting their own seasonal salon shows for clients, press, and buyers. It wasn't called Fashion Week just yet, but the tone was there: exclusive, artistic, aspirational. Worth had cracked the code. If fashion is storytelling, it needs a stage. And Paris? Paris was that stage, setting the standard the rest of the world would chase for decades. So let's go to New York Press Week. Changes the game. Now let's definitely hop across the Atlantic to New York, because this is where things got very exciting. By the early 1940s, World War II was happening, and while Paris was still that girl when it came to fashion, she was basically inaccessible. Editors couldn't fly out, buyers couldn't see the new collections, and the American fashion scene was low-key, being overlooked by the global elite. But then, entered the queen of fashion, PR herself, Eleanor Lambert. Our good sister Eleanor looked at the situation and said, "Yeah, we're definitely flipping the script on that." In 1943, she created something called Press Week, which was literally the first time American designers were showcased in one centralized, media-friendly event. Oh, She brought the editors to New York, pulled together the best US designers, and said, "Here is our fashion take notes." And baby, it worked. Suddenly, the world realized American fashion wasn't just copying Paris, it had its own voice. Think clean lines, elevated sportswear, functional elegance. It was fresh, modern, and very much giving main character. But Eleanor wasn't here to play games. No, ma'am. She wasn't just throwing together a one-off event, she was building a movement. She didn't just start Fashion Week in America, she defined it. The whole model scheduled shows, front row press, industry buzz that was all her. She understood that fashion needed a stage, a storyline, and serious press power. And she gave it exactly that, wrapped in pure American ingenuity. And Mrs. Eleanor did not stop there because once she got going, she was on a roll. She built the entire infrastructure of American fashion. She launched the International Best Dressed list, aka the Original Influencer Moment, the Coty Fashion Critics Awards, and the Council of Fashion Designers of America, the CFDA, all to spotlight, support, and legitimize U.S. designers. She even dreamed up the Met Gala in 1948 as a fundraiser long before it became the red carpet Super Bowl we know now. And that legendary Battle of Versailles fashion show in 1973, where American designers went toe-to-toe with the French elite in an actual palace? Yup, that was Mrs. Eleanor again. Press Week eventually evolved into what we now know as New York Fashion Week, and it completely changed the game. It gave American designers a real seat at the global fashion table, not as imitators, but as innovators. And by the time anyone could blink, our good sis Eleanor had laid down the entire blueprint for American fashion as we know it. The press lists, the production, the PR machine that was her playbook. She turned American fashion into a force. And honestly, she deserves her flowers, a statue, and a Netflix biopic because without Eleanor Lambert, there's no Fashion Week, no Met Gala, no CFDA, there's no us. Next is the Big Four are born. So now the ball is rolling, and the idea of organizing fashion shows by season, city, and schedule really starts to catch on. And just like that, the Big Four were born the four fashion capitals that basically run the industry: New York, London, Milan, and Paris. Let's break it down for the girls on why this even happened in the first place. Paris kicked things off in 1973 by making Fashion Week official, organizing everything under the Chambre syndicale de la haute couture, and setting the gold standard for elegance, artistry, and that effortless French luxury. Think Dior, Saint Laurent, Givenchy, literal runway royalty. Then came Milan, launching its official Fashion Week in 1979, and baby, Milan came with the drama. She said, "Let's make fashion cinematic." We're talking decadent silhouettes, power tailoring, bold prints, Versace, Prada, Gucci, Fendi. Milan became synonymous with luxury that moves. Next comes London, the cool, edgy girl of the group. London Fashion Week made its debut in 1984, and she came in hot with the avant-garde energy. We're talking wearable art, punk influences, and rebellious silhouettes. Designers like Vivienne Westwood and Alexander McQueen used their runways to challenge, provoke, and flip the industry on its head. And to this day, London is still that girl when it comes to raw innovation and fearless creativity. Each of the Big Four brings its own unique flavor. New York is polished and commercial. London is cool and creative. Milan is luxe and bold. Paris is haute and historic. And together, they define the rhythm, influence, and global language of fashion. Next is Fashion Week goes global. So now let's fast forward to the modern day, early 2000s, to now because this is when Fashion Week really started to level up. Social media enters the chat, and suddenly fashion shows aren't just for buyers and editors anymore. They're going viral. They're getting posted, blogged, tweeted, and eventually live-streamed, Instagrammed, and TikToked in real time. And that's when Fashion Week shifts from an insider industry event to a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Street style becomes its own category. Fashion bloggers go from standing outside the venue to sitting front row. Designers start live streaming shows so people around the world can tune in from their phones. It's democratizing fashion, but also making it way more performative. Because now, Fashion Week isn't just about showing clothes, it's about creating moments. Rihanna at PFW, Zendaya at Valentino. These aren't just runway appearances, they're pop culture events. Then, 2020 hits and the pandemic shuts everything down. Suddenly, everything goes digital. Brands start experimenting with virtual runways, fashion films, AR shows, and digital-only collections. And while the energy changed, the creativity, it exploded. Smaller fashion cities like Copenhagen, Seoul, and Tokyo started making waves with fresh aesthetics, cooler formats, and more sustainable approaches. Fashion Week was no longer a private club, it became a global stage, and everyone was invited. So why does it matter? At this point, you might be thinking, okay, I love it, foreign black girl, but why does this history actually matter? Because Fashion Week isn't just about clothes, girl. It's about culture. It reflects what's happening in the world. It pushes conversations about identity, politics, art, sustainability, and expression. It's where new voices get discovered, where aesthetics are challenged, and where the next chapter of style begins. Knowing the history gives you a deeper appreciation of what's happening on the runway and lets you see the full story behind the clothes. Whether you're working in fashion, dreaming about it, or just living your best stylish life, understanding Fashion Week gives you insight into how trends are shaped, how designers make statements, and how fashion keeps moving forward. And there you have it, the full story of how Fashion Week went from exclusive salons in Paris to a worldwide fashion phenomenon. From wartime pivots to TikTok runways, Fashion Week has always been about evolution. Let me know in the comments which part of Fashion Week's history you found the most interesting. Would you have wanted to sit in on one of those old-school Paris salon shows? Or maybe front row at NYFW in the 90s? Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell if you want more fashion deep dives, runway reviews, and behind-the-scenes tea. Until next time, stay beautiful, stay smart, and I'll see you in the next one.